Obama to ask for debt limit hike, Treasury official. Remember, the last debt increase is going to be the last. And we're going into the debt to the mega banks that own the private Federal Reserve that we bailed out to the tune in 1 year of 16 plus trillion, a total in the last 4 years, 27 trillion, and we haven't gotten new numbers in a while. So we give them trillions, and then they come in and loan it back to the American people, and we go into debt to them. The government, of course, loans them the money at zero or lower than zero. They loan it back to us at massive interest. And so now the debt ceiling that was 14 trillion went to 15.194 trillion. Now it's going to 16 trillion 394 billion. So now it is jumping back up yet again in everybody's face. And this is all part of these money changers, these Ponzi scheme operators that literally create all this out of nothing, but then we've got to pay taxes on our real labor to them, giving their Ponzi fraud value. You get how that little magician trick works. So there is that report on that front. Now, here's another big fat, see, I told you so. And it doesn't matter whether it's Obama in office, it doesn't matter whether it's George Bush in office, Mitt Romney, anybody but Ron Paul, it's the same deal because they're all bought and paid for by the same interest. Here's another big fat, I told you so. Because almost 10 years ago, I watched C-SPAN and I saw Homeland Security say, you're going to have government approval to have a job, to live, to drive, to walk down the street. If you haven't paid all the taxes, we say, we're going to order your employers to fire you. I mean, this is like in the ghettos in Germany where they said you can't operate a business now, you got to wear a yellow star. This is exactly what tyrannies engage in. Here's the LA Times. TSA screenings aren't just for airports anymore. And it says bus stations, malls. Well, they're already running ads where they show the TSA at malls and at football games. We're coming to grab your daughter's genitals, to look in your baby's diaper, to confiscate your cupcakes. That's now happening. To train you that you're a prisoner and you're bad. And notice they say, critics say it's largely political theater. No, critics say it's conditioning to train us to be prisoners, dog training, and it's training us we're guilty until proven slaves, not guilty until proven innocent. Of course, it should be innocent until proven guilty. But now it's just you're guilty, only Homeland Security can be trusted. The same folks caught shipping drugs into the U.S., guns out of the U.S. on record. The same crooks with big mega banks laundering hundreds of billions of drug money every year, getting caught, nobody gets in trouble, like Corzine taking all that money and not getting in trouble. I mean, it's just open a bunch of thugs out of control. And they don't care that we know. I guess they do kind of care. They're moving to start shutting down the free internet as we know it and admitting it. So there's that here. No, people are mad because it's groping. That's why I saw numbers of 40 billion a year now lost in tourism of the U.S. alone. People won't come here. Communist China, which is a police state, doesn't do this to go down the road or to go to a shopping mall or to go to an airplane. Okay? So it's amazing. And so they're going to be everywhere. And they just got their funding tripled to do this, so look out. There's that article. And look, I could show you us 9.5 years ago in films I made and articles warning you about this, but here we are from December 7th of last year, more than a year ago. Americans outraged as Big Sis launches DHS invasion of society. And in the article, we talk about highway checkpoints, telescreens in Walmarts and other locations, saying only trust government, government PSAs, and how they're going to be involved in every aspect of your life doing this. They were already doing test cases of this, where you pull up and the feds are running local police, and they go, we're going to grope your family, just randomly. Again, you're all guilty. How about the government gets groped? I bet if you actually went and checked what they're doing, you'd find all sorts of horrible stuff, because these are a pack of criminals with a bunch of veterans who've been overseas setting up police state systems in other countries, now coming back and filling the ranks. And again, most veterans come back awake. They do psychological testing and find the ones that like checkpoints and groping people and doing all this, and they set them up to wage war against the American people. Speaking of China and speaking of police states, China has jailed another dissident, Chen Zhai, for 10 years, if I'm pronouncing that right. And they said because he wrote some blogs criticizing the government. They said that he had criticized the government, and that undermines them, and so he can be arrested and basically disappear into a black hole. And now our criminal government has put this on paper and says it's the law with the NDAA. So all over the world, governments are saying, hey, you're inciting subversion through online essays. You're saying the government's illegitimate. You disappear into a black hole. But at least here he had a judge and a trial. Under the NDAA, you don't even get that. So continuing here, here's AP. The so-called U.S. military is pulled out of Iraq. They've kept over 100,000 contractors there, got giant embassy bases. They run the military. They already want to break the country in three parts, as they always plan to do. And al-Qaeda, the same real al-Qaeda groups they're using to attack Iran, their neighbor, who's Shiite. Our media, then so-called media, says Iran is al-Qaeda when the Shiites are the opposite of the Wahhabists. Okay, I mean, the rest of the world laughs at us, but they think our public is so dumb. Hey, one brown guy is different, you know, from another brown guy. I don't think so. I mean, that's basically how the world sees this. Is that we're just totally mindless and absolutely dumbed down. But here, the average American just says, hey, you know what? That must be a SWAT team officer. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought terrorists wore masks. There's an evil al-Qaeda terrorist. He's going to try to get us. We've got to give all our rights up. And meanwhile, it's admitted that al-Qaeda works for the criminal banks, and they've given them control of Libya. Now they're invading Syria with them. They've given them control of so many other countries like Egypt. Al-Qaeda is a tool of the New World Order, period. And here's the Associated Press. An al-Qaeda front group in Iraq has claimed responsibility for a wave of attacks that ripped through markets, cafes, and government buildings in Baghdad on a single day last week, killing 69 people and raising new worries about the country's path since the U.S. left. So that sells the idea that, oh, without the West, what are you going to do? You need to keep the contractors in the U.S. there because al-Qaeda struck. The very same al-Qaeda group on record being funded by the West to attack Iran. That's how dumb the system thinks we are. Continuing here, and this will segue us into the big report that we're about to get to, dealing with chemicals being added to the water, the food, and into the containers that our food and water is held in. Here's an article out of the Huffington Post, but that isn't the issue. You go to the first link, and it's the International Journal of Bioethical Sciences, analyzing the effects of genetically modified foods on mammalian health. That's all mammals. We're mammals. Researchers found that the agricultural giant Monsanto GM corn is linked to organ damage in rats. Now, these studies don't just show that. They've had these for decades. It also shows massive infertility. Within 3 generations, with the average GMO crop, in rats, guinea pigs, you name it, they cannot have offspring, and they have all sorts of weird deformities. According to the study, which summarized by Randy Ananda at Food Freedom, 3 varieties of Monsanto GM corn, MON 863, insecticide-producing MON 810, and Roundup herbicide-absorbing NK 603 were approved for consumption by U.S., European, and several other nations' food safety authorities. But it goes on to break down kidney and liver function, other organs, spleen, blood cells were also found to be damaged, and that it caused all sorts of other problems in the sexual organs, you name it. So, and by the way, it's not just Monsanto; it's every company as you go down the line, because they don't just have the traits that you're told about to last longer, or taste better, or take less water. They Trojan horse the traits in there for fertility destruction and cancer, and that's in all the studies. So here's just another one. Right there. We're going to get more into this, why this is happening in a moment. But I thought I'd show you this. Now, remember, all of these different industries, fertilizer production, aluminum smelting, uranium purification, they've got all of this massive byproduct in the 40s and 50s. What do? Well, fluoride reduces fertility, increases cancer, lowers IQ, cognitive development. It was a well-known poison 200 years ago. It was used as bug poison as far back as 200 years ago. They just said, hey, we'll just go ahead and add it to the water and make cities pay millions of dollars a year like Austin, Texas does. We've covered this ad infinitum. But now that the American Medical Association has been forced to admit that it's actually hurting kids and people under 5 shouldn't have it, and that it should be lowered, the amount that's in drinking water, and people are taking their cities back and ordering it removed, states like Arkansas are passing laws saying it's the law it be in the water. The feds, it's always just a recommendation, and they lobby and will pay to have it done because they care so much about your teeth. And they want you to have your teeth fracturing and dental fluorosis. Now, which it actually causes. But now they're coming out with mobile fluoride trucks with all sorts of little candies and things with the fluoride in it. And I remember, I didn't know anything about this when I was in kindergarten in Dallas. But I remember, and my dad had just graduated and was a dentist, so I thought, well, this must be nice. They'd bring us red little pills. And I remember throwing up and getting sick and laying in the back of the car vomiting when my mother would pick me up in kindergarten and first grade when they came in. And I was too dumb. I didn't know it was in a little candy package. I'd eat it like I was supposed to and just get deathly ill. And I remember being like 5, 6, 7 years old. Every time I'd brush my teeth, I'd really have a headache and have to lay down on the couch. And of course, now I understand if you swallow anywhere near a pea size, you're supposed to call poison control. Of course, kids always swallow that. See, I didn't need to have the science. I mean, this was happening when I was a child, and I'd never heard this. And my dad didn't know because the American Dental Association were telling him it was so great. And they weren't telling him, of course, that under the name fluoride, they add hundreds of chemicals to the toothpaste and to the water supply. But here it is, mobile fluoride vans to target communities that voted to remove chemical from the public water supply. They look like basically an ice cream truck, and they drive around. Health officials, not servants, are suggesting the county purchase a mobile fluoride van as an alternative which would drive around town, administer fluoride and other controversial dental services directly to children, like an ice cream truck. Now, notice this already happened in California. They signed the law 3 months ago, Mr. Brown did, saying that parents won't even be told. They're just going to give your kid the vaccines right there. They're going to ask your child, do you want it, and show them a film scaring them. Now, there's a reason that if you have a 16-year-old girlfriend when you're 20, you can go to jail, statutory rape, because they're not of age yet to make the decision determination they want to get back in the back of your Chevy. Now, we're talking about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds. The government coming and saying, we don't need your mommy and daddy's parental consent anymore. We're going to give you this. So that's forced. That's forced. And that's the state getting in front of what you say and what you do. And selling this bull line of, well, if you're not vaccinated, you'll get others sick. Wait, if you've had the nauseous poison, the fertility reducer, the cancer causer chemical bioweapon mix, then you should be safe, right? Of course, the studies are out in every case. The vaccines actually cause the illnesses, lower your immunity. Look it up for yourself. They only get away with this crap because you're unconscious. I'm going to hit the people rioting for the stupid Air Jordans as we go to break and go to the next 2 interviews. I want to hit right now, though, because it dovetails with the fluoride bans and the organ failure and the GMO and the fertility attacks with this. Here is CBS News on screen right there. Ron Paul disavows racist newsletters under his name. And the reason I know that this is a talking point is because it, in the last 3 years, has conservatively been in probably 1,000 blogs and a couple hundred newspapers and nightly news pieces on national TV. I mean, it's been everywhere. Just last week, there were hundreds of articles. I couldn't even count them all. If you type Ron Paul, Alex Jones into Google and click it, with ABC, CBS, I mean, you name it, attacking Ron Paul for coming on my radio show and saying he's crazy, he thinks there's a threat to use troops on the streets as Congress votes to get rid of Posse Comitatus and do that. And Alex Jones, they have the quote right here. Alex Jones, it says, who has reportedly accused the government of encouraging homosexuality with chemicals so that people don't have children. And they went on to say that Ron Paul comes on my show and is worried about military Northcom combatant command. They couldn't even get that right, taking over the nation.